Incremental readings. Let's continue the Supermemo course, the Pleasurable expansion. Now we have seen what a subset is, and before we go further, you have seen that usually doing the subsets or customizing the subsets will require to use the browser window. So now we will focus on the columns on the browser window that you will be able to use for sorting. So the elements of that subset will be presented to you according to the order that you sort.
For each one. Number of times that the element has been forgotten, which means you will see this only for items, like how many times you graded this with 1 or 2.
Well, to be precise, 0, 1, or 2, a failing rate. This is called a lapse, and it's like the lapse count. 0 means that you have never forgotten that. That doesn't mean you have recalled that successfully. Could be that you have done no repetitions yet. So you cannot fail what you haven't tried, right? So if you have items, you can sort by this column. Perhaps you want, hey, I want to start with the items that I filled the most of my entire collection, or a specific concept group, or the ones that are outstanding today in my outstanding queue, that they have a certain template, let's say, I don't know, image occlusion cards that I leech the most, whatever combination you want to use.
The lapses. First repetition, when you did your first repetition of this?
Not necessarily you. The first repetition of the element. That means when you did the repetition or when you created the element, shall I say. Most of the time, remember that in Supermemo, when you do a close deletion, well, we will see this in detail on the incremental reading flow. When you create topics because you extract, or items because you do a close deletion on a topic, this creates the element, then sets an automatic interval and a starting interval automatically, and this is the first rep. It will be the first rep that you do specifically if this comes from the new material loading stage, because you bypassed the creation in Supermemo. It's already created out of context. Then yes, if you come from the pending queue, the first repetition would be when you did the actual repetition on the question and answer and you graded the element. Other than that, it is the creation date.
Which is, for example, this one, I graded this one before going into the course.
And this is the last repetition. So when the date that you did the last repetition, meaning that if the last repetition date and the first repetition date are the same, means there are no more repetitions. The first is again the last, because there's only one. That's how you know that. And the next is according to the scheduling, according to the next interval. What will that be? In that case, it's not a meaningful example. It's very dummy because everything is one single day. So the next repetition is always tomorrow. But if you have a genuine collection, it's likely, if you don't have new elements that are just created, that the first date, the last repetition date, and the next repetition date are all of three different.
I think. And so it's last rep, July 24. You see LUG because this is...
Again, this is the same. Remember, we have seen the calendar that was in Italian. It always happens with the dates in Supermemo. Then don't ask me why the next repetition is by number, doesn't include the day of the week, unlike the last and first rep. Yeah. At least in the workload, if you remember, here I can customize it. So I have just the date, or I can have the date plus the day of the week. This will be seen in the language you have Windows on, if it's not English.
Italian month, because it probably takes it from. This is the different.
Okay, this is difficulty. We haven't tackled this yet, and we won't until much later when we cover space repetition. But just to let you know that again you can sort by difficulty, the hardest to the lowest to the hardest, or a range. I want only items that are from 0.1 to 0.4 difficulty. Boom. Regardless of the sort, I'm not sorting by this, I'm filtering this. Is also possible. And then the other columns we have already seen. Forget FI, forgetting index. Remember 10 and F, for default, it's different. One is hard-coded, the other is pointing. It will be different as soon as you update the default forgetting index in your collection. AF, A factor, OR is the ordinal. Remember, you will ignore this completely. UF is the U factor. Is always 1 because the interval is always 1 day. Element number, again, you only need to know that if you link elements, and you will be relying on copy and pasting. So what is left? Post, this is for postpones. How many times this element has been postponed? Remember we did Ctrl J. I did this during the prior videos. That's why now we have 3 postpones here, because I did Ctrl J several times here. That doesn't mean it's just because I rescheduled. I could have done genuine postpone, auto postpone, mercy, some others. Those, we will see this in the next chapter, that are the bulk operations. But just to let you know that you can sort by this if you want. But hey, you know what I have been logging my collection? Let me sort with what I have postponed the most first. Then, the amount of repetitions. Keep in mind that 1 repetition is already the automatic. Lapses, we started with that. Interval, we have seen that. Priority, we have seen that. Title, the title of the element, you can sort by alphabetically. No is the number in the element browser. So this is relative. The only point is to sort how it was already in the browser window. Nothing. It's not a property of the element, basically. And what's left? Yeah, we covered everything. And just as a bonus, let me open my priority queue. Okay. And as a bonus, you can rearrange that. So you know what? Difficulty is only for items. I don't want to see this that often, so I can move that. You can move collections. The type, I already see the type visually. So this type will only be for sorting. I will put it last. Doesn't add much difference. Then, the ordinal, useless. The element number, kind of. So I want to see the last repetition, perhaps here. Boom, here you go. So what's awesome is that you can rearrange the columns to whatever you want. Usually the most important will be to the left, because you will have less space. So if something requires horizontal scrolling, is the things that you will check the least often. And what's awesome, unlike other windows in Supermemo, is that this is kept. That means that from now on, every time that I open this window, I keep the same column rearrangement, because this is saved in the INI file. That's why this persists. Even if I close down my computer, I start Supermemo again, this will appear at the same place as I did now. In order to sort, it's as easy as clicking the header. I want to sort by the first rep, you just click. Boom. That's the start of my collection. I want to sort by the highest absolute factor. Remember, it's capped by design at 6.9. So this is really, really close to the maximum. I want the lowest. I click again. And the lowest is 1.1 for topics. So I want to sort by postpone. Again, by default, when you click, you get the highest. Is descending. I want ascending. I will need to click twice. So you can sort for whatever header you want. And spoiler alert, you will see this in the coming videos in this section. You can have other sorts here. That cannot be, even more here. That cannot be achieved by sorting on the columns. But we will see this later, not now. So that's all you need to know about the columns of the browser window. You can rearrange them, you can save the rearrangement, and you can use them to sort. And this sort is useful not just to display this and see it, but to start a subset, because the order of appearance will be the order shown on the element window. See you in the next video.